بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. How does Islam view women? Some say Islam considers women to be second-class citizens. Women are incomplete human beings, and women are not worthy of much rights. Islam was revealed to ensure the rights of men and the interests of men, and to ensure that women abide by the laws of men. This is how simple it is. And they support their argument by stating that there are many Islamic laws that support this misconception. So they say, why is it that in Islam a woman is not allowed to become a marja, for example? From the time of the disappearance of Imam al-Mahdi until now, we've had hundreds of maraja, but none were a woman. Why is it that Islam allows men to become maraja but not a woman? And the laws that we mentioned last night, the laws of inheritance: the woman receives half the inheritance of a man. A man is allowed to marry up to 4 wives. Polygamy is allowed from one side, and it's monogamy from the other side. The witness, the testimony of a female in an Islamic court is equivalent to half the testimony of a male in an Islamic court. This all supports that Islam is a male-dominated religion and doesn't pay attention to women and women's rights. First of all, let's see what Islam says about it. How does Islam view women? Before we get to the laws, inshallah, in the coming nights, we'll address these laws one by one, based on the Qur'an and the accurate Sunnah of Rasulullah, and some analysis supported with scientific research. We'll get to that. But first of all, we'd like to see, what does Islam think of women? And the best place to go and see the opinion of Islam regarding women is the Qur'an. Because the Qur'an is the constitution for Islam. It's the Islamic constitution. When we come to the Qur'an, we see various points. وَصَلَّ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ. Number one, we notice that the Qur'an states that men and women were created from the same soul and the same spirit. The Qur'an says, الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدٍ. Men and women were created from the same spirit and the same soul. While when you come to Judaism and Christianity, there's a dominant belief that men were created from women, and that Eve was created from what? The rib of Adam. While in Islam, we don't believe in this. We don't believe that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. The same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam independently, He created Eve independently. He didn't need to use one of Adam's ribs in order to create Eve. This wasn't difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet if you read the Old Testament, Genesis, Book 2, it clearly states that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. Now this is clear. Prejudice towards men. And not in favor of women. When women are told that you are created from men, you weren't created independently. This creates a problem. Thus in Islam we believe that they were both created independently. The same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, He created Eve, and not from her rib. And if, you might say, well, we do have some narrations that say Eve was created from the rib of Adam. Yes, we do have some narrations. You will find such narrations in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The answer that these narrations are called Isra'iliyat, meaning that the ones who narrated such narrations were people like Ka'b al-Ahbar, who was a Christian monk, a Jewish monk, who converted into Islam and was allowed by the second Khalifa Umar ibn al-Khattab to give lectures. And there were some who sat during his lectures and took notes. Ka'b al-Ahbar wasn't a scholar, wasn't an Islamic scholar. He was a Jewish scholar. He was allowed to lecture, bringing things from the Old Testament, and Muslims took them as if they were facts. Among such things were such narrations, that Eve was created from the rib of Adam. While when you look to the narrations in the hadith of Ahl Bayt, we don't have such a thing. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, He created Eve independently. This is number one. Number two, when we compare the Qur'an to the Old Testament, we see that there's one story that has been mentioned in both books. The story of creation, the story of Adam and Eve, and the story of the forbidden tree. In both the Old Testament and the Qur'an, the story of the forbidden tree is mentioned. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Adam and Eve to live in paradise and to eat from whatever they want, except this forbidden tree. Don't get close to this forbidden tree. Here, both books are the same. You will find the same exact story. But the difference is in the following. In the Old Testament, in Genesis, book 3, it's mentioned that the serpent comes to Eve and he seduces her, he tricks her into eating from the forbidden tree. And in return, Eve comes to Adam and tells him, let's eat from the forbidden tree. So the serpent comes to Eve and Eve comes to Adam. So in essence, who tricked Adam? Eve did. Eve tricked Adam, according to the Old Testament. Thus, in Judaic theology and in Christian theology, the first sinner is considered women. Women are considered the first sinners. Of course, we believe that what Adam and Eve did was not a sin, because Adam alayhi salam is a what? Is a prophet. We believe, especially we, the followers of the debate, we believe that prophets do not sin. No prophet sinned. So well, what did Adam do? We believe that it was recommended for Adam not to eat from this tree. It was a recommended act. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, don't eat from this tree. If you eat from this tree, you will have to leave paradise and come down to it. Adam decided not to follow such direction. It's like when you have directions to go to, for example, to an Islamic center, to a mall, someone gives you directions. If you decide on disobeying those directions, the person's not going to put a gun to your head and tell you, why do you disobey my directions? It's like a navigation system. The navigation system tells you where to go. If you decide on disobeying, that's your choice. Or you're going to end up somewhere else. You're not going to end up at the desired place. Adam ate from the tree, now you do. This was not a sin. But in Christianity and Judaism, this was seen as a sin. And not only was it a sin, but the cause was Eve. And in some Christian theology, women are seen as evil. Women are seen as devilish. They're a gateway to hell. And they are the reason why men sin. In some Christian theology. That men, if you leave men alone, they don't sin. But as soon as they start mixing with women, they're influenced by women, they begin to sin. Well, when we come to the Qur'an says that both Adam and Eve, they both didn't listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ. They were both fooled by shaitan, not Eve. فَأَزَلَّهُمَا. They were both tricked by shaitan. فَأَزَلَّهُمَا الشَّيْطَانُ. And if we were to blame one more than the other, we would blame Adam, because Adam was a prophet. That is what the Quran says. فَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبُّهُ فَغَوَى. Adam is the one, because Adam is a prophet. Eve wasn't a prophet. This is one of the differences we see between the Quran and the Old Testament. Number 3, in some religions, there's a belief that women cannot enter paradise. That men have a monopoly over paradise in heaven. Women are not worthy of paradise. Women are not worthy of spiritual elevation. And if they perform any good deeds, they're not accepted. Allah only accepts the good deeds of men. Some religions believe this. Well, when we look at the Quran says men and women are both creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same way Allah created men, He created women. And they are all Allah's creation. They're all Allah's children. Of course, not literally, not literal children of Allah. But Allah is our creator, and He doesn't differentiate between men and women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a racist, or He's not a sexist. He's not going to favor men over women. The same way men enter paradise, women enter paradise. The same way men have the capability of being spiritually uplifted, so do women. The same way the good deeds of men are accepted, women's good deeds are accepted. The Quran says, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنثَىٰ. Allah says, I will not neglect your good deeds. I will reward your good deeds, whether you're a male or a female. مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِّن ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنثَىٰ وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. He who believes and performs good deeds from men and women, we shall grant them pleasant lives. So there's no special attention to men, both men and women. Number 4, in some religions, maybe many religions, marriage is seen as an ugly act. It's a hideous act. And that celibacy is the road to spirituality. If you like to be more spiritual, you should take the road of celibacy and remaining celibate, unmarried. In some religions, sexual inclination towards women is seen as a vice. It's seen as an ugly act. In some religions, they encourage remaining celibate. That is why in Catholicism, Catholic priests, cardinals, archbishops, they remain celibate. Nuns, they remain celibate. They avoid marriage because they see that any sort of relations, well, in Christianity and other religions, that any sort of relations with women contradicts spirituality, contradicts being religious. So they put a barrier. There's a red line. Even in Buddhism, Buddhist monks, they live a whole life in celibacy. They don't get married. They remain celibate. Why? Because of this reason. Marriage is seen as an ugly act. Why is marriage seen as an ugly act? Because you would have is recommended. Marriage is seen as something positive. Marriage is seen as something that will spiritually uplift you. You'll become closer to Allah through marriage. One hadith says, ركعتان يصليهما متزوج أفضل من 70 ركعة يصليهما أعزب. If a married person performs 2 rak'ahs, it will have more thawab and reward than 70 rak'ah that a bachelor or a bachelorette will perform. That means when you're married, you'll have more thawab. You'll be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one way that Allah encourages, Islam encourages marriage. The Qur'an says, وَأَنْكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ. Let your youth marry. Marry your youth. In another hadith, Rasulullah says, الزواج سنتي فمن رغب عن سنتي فليس مني. That marriage is part of my tradition. He who avoids marriage is avoiding my own tradition. It's not a follower of my sunnah. Islam doesn't say, abandon women, don't marry them, stay away from them. No, on the contrary, Islam says, don't marry. A group of women came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and they told him, Ya Rasulullah, our men, our husbands, fast during the day, and this wasn't during Ramadan. They fast during the day and they spend the entire night in worship. We don't get to see our husbands. Because they're worshiping all night and fasting all day. The next day Rasulullah came to the masjid and he scolded these men. He said, I hear about a group of my Sahaba that fast during the day and worship all night. They don't go to their women. They don't go to their wives. This is not part of my teachings. This is not part of my sunnah. He scolded them. And in a hadith, من أخلاق الأنبياء حب النساء. One of the manners of prophets is love for women. Love for women, respect for women, honor for women. Now when I say love for women, don't think that prophets were womanizers. Don't get any wrong ideas. When Rasulullah was saying this, he was saying this to a group of people that would degrade women. That women had no respect and no value in society. He told them that it was part of the manners of the prophets to love women, to respect them, to honor them, to treat them like human beings. Number 5. Some religions in some religions, they believe that women were created to serve men. They were created only for the pleasure and service of men. This is it. Nothing else. And if a woman does not serve and pleasure her man or her husband, then there is no point in her creation. Because this is why she was created. Of course, Islam does not accept this. Islam fought this idea that women were created for the pleasure of men. Women were created for the service of men. Incidentally, it is said, I heard this from a Catholic priest actually on the radio. He was saying it as a joke. He says that a man, very happy with his wife, decided to speak to God one day. He said, God, you've given me a very beautiful wife. Why? Why have you given me such a beautiful wife? So the answer came from God, so that you may love her. He said, God, and she's a great cook as well. Why did you make her such a great cook? The answer came from God, so that you may love her. And then he kept on saying, God, and she dresses perfectly. Why do you make her such a, person who dresses perfectly? The answer came, so that you may love her. And then he said, but God, she's really stupid. Why did you make her so stupid? And the answer came from God, so that she may love you. In Islam, there is no such a thing. That women were created for the benefit of men. And women were created for the service and the pleasure of men. The Qur'an tells us completely the opposite. That men and women were created to serve one another, to complete one another, to help one another. Not the other way around. The Qur'an says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُمْ. The Qur'an calls us libas. Libas means clothing. That you, men, are clothing for women, and women are clothing for you. Why clothing? What is that supposed to mean? Men are clothing for women, women are clothing for men? Yes. What do clothes do? When you put on clothes, what do your clothing do? Number one, it's for protection. Protection from heat, and protection from cold weather. Number two, it covers up. It covers you up. It covers your body. And number three, it's for ornament. When you wear nice clothing, you look nice. You look better. These three qualities are in a spouse. They're for protection, they're for covering up, and they're for being an ornament. The Quran says, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُمْ. Number 6, some schools of thought and some religions believe that women are a source of discomfort for men. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, that God created men to test, Allah created women to test men and to test their patience and to see how patient they would remain with having a woman in their lives. Because they're a source of discomfort. While when we come to the Quran, we see it's completely the opposite. The Quran says that Allah created for you woman for a source of comfort. Allah created woman to be a source of comfort for you. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So that there will be stability in your lives, peace in your lives, harmony in your life. Women are not a test, not a source of evil or discomfort. Number 7, during the days of Jahiliyyah, there was a public crime, a very common crime committed. And that crime was killing their female infants. Why kill their female infants? Because these, during the days of Jahiliyyah, their way of thinking was how to make money. We need to make money. And they saw that girls and women didn't just not make money, but they would add to their expenses. Because women spend more than men. So he thought that if I have a boy goes out, he works as a farmer, he does all kinds of things, he'll generate money. While girls not only do not generate money, but they spend money. So they thought, you know what, let's just kill them altogether. They would kill their female infants. If they didn't kill, at least they would live in shame, they would be embarrassed. If one of them was told that your wife gave birth to a female, that was harsh news for him, it was depressing for him. The Qur'an says that he would hide. He wouldn't want anyone to see him out of embarrassment. The Qur'an says, وَإِذَا بُشِّرَ أَحَدُكُمْ بِالْأُنثَى ظَلَّ وَجْهُهُ مُسْوَدًّا وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ يَتَوَارَى مِنَ الْقَوْمِ مَا بُشِّرَ بِهِ أَيَمْسِكُهُ عَلَى هُونٍ أَمْ يَدُسُّهُ فِي التُّرَابِ. When one of them was told that your wife gave birth to a female, he would become depressed. He would run away. And then he would want to make a decision. Should I keep the child? Should I keep this girl? Or should I go and bury her? It's something very common for them to bury their infant girls. A man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I had 15 daughters, and I buried every single one of them with my own hands. Except number 15. When my wife was pregnant with number 15, I left the city. When I came back, she had given birth. I asked her, where's the child? She said that the child died at birth. He said 15 or 16 years later, one day I came back home and I saw a young girl sitting next to my wife. this is our daughter. I was afraid we would kill her. And then she made me swear that I wouldn't hurt her, I wouldn't kill her. And I swore that I wouldn't. One day my wife left the house. I dragged my daughter into the middle of the desert. And I took a shovel and I started digging a grave. And she helped me. My daughter helped me dig this grave. Once she finished digging the grave, I told her to step inside the grave. She started begging me to leave her alone. She said, I'll go into another city. You will never leave me. You will never see me again. He said, I refused. I started pouring the dirt on her until I buried her. These were the men during the days of Jahiliyyah. These were the people that Rasulullah were sent to. They had no mercy in their hearts. They would bury their own daughters alive. His 16-year-old daughter, he buried her alive. But the Qur'an came to stop all of this. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنبٍ قُتِلَتْ. Allah tells us that on the Day of Judgment, these infants will ask, why? Why was I murdered? Why was I killed? Islam stopped all of this. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 8, when we read the Qur'an, we see that the Qur'an stresses on respect and obedience towards parents, but specifically towards mothers. The Qur'an pays a close attention to the mothers. The Qur'an says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَىٰ وَهْنٍ. And we told man to take care of his parents, but first whom? His mother carried him. Allah reminds each and every single one of us that our mothers carried us for 9 months. Pay close attention to your mothers. حَمَلَتْهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا. In another verse, a man comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tells him, Ya Rasulullah, I have an elderly father and I have an elderly mother. Who should I take care of? He said, your mother. And then again, he said, your mother, your mother, your mother, 4 times. He stressed on taking care of his mother. Another man came to Imam Sadiq and told him, Ibn Rasulullah, I have a mother, but I took her to Hajj. She's very old. I took her to Hajj. If I carry her over my shoulders and I perform tawaf 7 times around the Kaaba, have I done justice? Have I returned the favor to her? He said, not at all. Not at all. You have not returned the favor. And of course, all men, I believe, the first, if they know any hadith, they would know this hadith. Al-Jannatu tahta aqdami ummahat. That paradise is underneath the feet of mothers. Why? Why? Because no one has the mother. No one has the heart of a mother, my dear friends. No one has that kindness. No one has that compassionate heart of a mother that will remain sleepless as long as the child sleeps. That will remain hungry and thirsty as long as that child eats and drinks. Ahmed Shawqi, a very well-known poet, he has this poem. I don't know if you enjoy Arabic poetry, but I'd like to read you these verses. He gives us this beautiful picture of a young man who was asked by a, it's fictional, it's not real, but it's a very nice poem. This young man is asked by a man to go and bring him the heart of his mother, to tear out the heart of his mother with a dagger and bring him the heart, and in return he would give him money. And so this young man, he takes a dagger and he runs to his mother, he stabs her in her chest, and he takes off her heart, and he rushes to this man to give him the heart of his mother in order to receive some money. Now see what happens in the story. He says, أغرى امرئ يوما غلاما جاهلا بنقوده كيما ينال به الضرر قال ائتني بفؤاد أمك يا فتى ولك الجواهر والدراهم والدرر فمضى وأغمد خنجرا في صدرها والقلب أخرجه وعاد على الأثر لكنه من فرط سرعته فتدحرج القلب المقطع إذ عثر ناداه قلب الأم وهو معفر ولدي حبيبي هل أصابك من مرض. Now this young man, when he stabbed his mother and he took out her heart, he rushed to that man to receive money. He was rushing, he was running. All of a sudden he tripped over a rock. He fell to the ground. The heart of his mother also fell to the ground. But he heard a voice from the heart of his mother saying, my dear son, did you get hurt? Did you get injured? This is a poem, it's fictional, but it's true. It's genuine. This is why Al-Jannah Tahta Aqdam al-Ummahat. And believe me, no other religion emphasizes on respect and honor for mothers like Islam does. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when they asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him his next door neighbor in paradise, he told him, go on this store, go on, take this direction, go to the store, take the street, go to the store, there's a man over there, he's your next door neighbor in heaven. Musa alayhi salam says, I went and I saw a butcher, a son. Now, Musa wasn't very happy. He's a prophet, Kalimullah, not just an ordinary prophet. He would speak directly to Allah. Allah is telling him that his next door neighbor in paradise is a butcher. And you know how in our communities we don't look, too high upon butchers. So Musa wanted to see why this butcher? What's so special about him? So he decided to follow him and see what's going on. Musa followed this butcher to his house. He saw that this butcher has a mother who is paralyzed, blind, and ill. This butcher would work during the day only to make a living to spend on his mother. When he would come home, he would care for her. He would wash her. He would massage her feet. He would give her medicine. He would put her to sleep. Then he realized why this butcher was his next door neighbor in paradise. Number 9, the Qur'an also tells us to be kind to your wives as well. Treat your wives in a good manner. In fact, we have an entire chapter in the Qur'an, the second largest chapter in the Qur'an, called what? Surah Al-Nisa. It talks about their rights, their God-given rights, laws pertaining to women. This is in the Qur'an. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam has a treatise on rights. He has a whole section designated for the rights, not just women in general, no. Different kinds of women. Rights for a mother, rights for a wife, your wife's rights. Imam Zayn al-Abidin talks about in his treatise. One day, one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, by the name of Sa'd ibn Ma'an. Sa'd ibn Ma'an was one of the companions of Rasulullah. And he followed Rasulullah and he became a shaheed. And before he died, Rasulullah would nurse him himself. He was injured in the battle. Rasulullah would nurse him himself. And Rasulullah walked in his funeral procession. And Rasulullah buried him himself. Now you can imagine what a holy man this guy was. How important this guy was. Rasulullah buried him himself. When he put him inside his grave, and he poured the dirt over his grave, Sa'd's mother was standing on top of the grave. She said, Hani'an laka al-jannah ya Sa'd. Congratulations, oh Sa'd, you're in paradise. Rasulullah raised his head towards his mother. He said, Mahdi ya Umm Sa'd. Slow down, ya Umm Sa'd. Do you know what just happened to your son? لَقَدْ ضَمَّهُ الْقَبْرُ ضَمَّ الْتَقَتْ أَضْلَاعَهُ. The grave just crushed him so badly that his ribs just met. Sa'd, who's a martyr, who was nursed by Rasulullah. He said, yes. She said, why? Why all this? Was my son an alcoholic? Did he gamble? Did he kill? Did he murder? He said, no. But he had one crime. What was that? كان سيء الخلق مع أهله. He had a bad temper with his wife. He was ill-tempered with his wife. There's some men that out in public, they're charming, they're nice, they're polite, but as soon as they go home, they turn into monsters. There's a punishment for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes such men in their grave. Islam teaches us about this. Islam says, pay attention to your wives, respect your wives, be kind to your wives. Rasulullah says, if you're a married man, tell your wife you love her. When you tell your wife you love her, this is ibadah, this is a recommended act. You'll be rewarded if you tell your wife you love her. It's only Islam, my dear friends. You won't find this anywhere else. And number 10, and I conclude with this, the Qur'an is full of stories of great men. Adam, Ibrahim, Nuh, Ismail, Dhul-Qarnayn, Al-Khidr, so many names, so many men. But at the same time, the Quran does not neglect women as well. When you see that in the Quran, there's mentioning of men, great men in the stories, you'll find in the Quran, great women as well. We have an entire chapter titled under the name of a woman, and that woman is who? Maryam alayhi salam. And we're not Christians, we're Muslims, yet we have a chapter named Maryam, and we are told of her story, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respects her. He honors her in this chapter. Another woman, Asiya bint Muzahim, the wife of Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises her in the Qur'an. And He says that she's an exemplary figure to all believers, men and women alike. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَامْرَأَتَ فِرْعَوْنَ. Another woman mentioned in the Qur'an, the mother of Musa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we revealed to the mother of Musa. You know what great honor this is? For Allah to reveal to a person. Allah revealed to the mother of Musa. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أَمِّ مُوسَى أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ. And in Islamic history, we honor certain women. We honor them, we glorify them, we respect them, and we take them as role models. For example, did you know that the first martyr in Islam was a woman, Nabina, Sumayya, Ammar bin Yasir, was one of the companions of Rasulullah. His mother, Sumayya, was the first martyr in Islam. The first martyr in Islam was not a man, it was a woman, and we honor her for that. Khadija, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we honor her. We believe that if it wasn't for Khadija, Islam would not have expanded. Islam would not have spread the way it did. It wouldn't have succeeded. Rasulullah himself states, مَا قَامَ الْإِسْلَامِ إِلَّا بِسَيْفِ عَلِيٍّ وَمَا لِخَدِيجَ. But Islam rose on two pillars. There were two factors for the spread of Islam. The sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the wealth of Khadija. In another hadith, he stated, مَا نَفَعَنِي مَالٌ قَطْ كَمَا نَفَعَنِي مَالُ خَدِيجَ. No money benefited me like the money of Khadija, like the wealth of Khadija. We respect her. Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha, we honor her, we respect her, we glorify her, we commemorate her. We believe that she's one of the most honorable figures in Islamic history. She's the daughter of Rasulullah, the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the mother of 11 Imams, and their teacher as well. We honor her. And of course, the Sayyid Zainab sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whenever we honor Imam Hossein, we also honor the Sayyid Zainab. And we believe that if it wasn't for Sayyid Zainab, the mission of Imam Hossein would not have been completed. The mission of Imam Hossein would have been aborted. But it was Sayyid Zainab who delivered the message of Imam Hossein. She told people about his sacrifice and of his revolution. Sayyid Zainab plays a major role. And it is very sad to hear what is happening today next to her shrine in her city. there's killings, there's bombings, there's street fights. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring peace to that nation and to all the nations of Islam, to bring peace and stability, and to allow us to go and visit her glorious grave and to visit her shrine, inshallah. In the coming nights we shall continue this subject in further detail. Walhamdulillah.